Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my Lost Judgment perspective. And this brings me to the end of my very strange journey with most of the Yakuza series games. I'm not going for Ishin. I might potentially look into Like a Dragon 8. But I have gone through a good amount of this series, and I've learned that it's not for me. Like, there's certain things that are interesting, there's certain characters and storylines that have potential, but the way the games are played, and how the minigames are implemented, and what goes on with them, it's just, I'm not the audience for it. And that's alright. It helped me learn what I like, what I don't like, how certain systems can just screw over certain things, and how stories can have a lot of potential and just be executed in the weirdest goddamn way possible. Like, this one is a prime example of it. It takes away the kind of things that Judgment was able to do with its story and have it honed and really build to a meaningful kind of conclusion, and instead it just fucking octopus morphs into this fucking crazy thing, and then just gets back to the same kind of old Yakuza stuff, where you have something that could have been a really good and well done story that then blossoms into, oh, government conspiracy, and it just escalates that quickly. I mean, granted, certain JRPGs go from, like, certain kind of, like, thing to, we gotta fight God! Well, or a God that's trying to destroy everything, so that's not outside of the realm of possibilities. But it's just really not well done, and the subject matter, which I think is important, is not handled very well. It's just very weird that bullying is the kind of giant subject matter on this, and I'm going around as a 33-year-old beating the shit out of students. I'm like, the fuck? And it's kind of built of, like, you should use the snake style because it's less harmful to them, but then it kind of blows out to all these other different kind of things and tries to make this, like, dichotomy of, like, the Lost Judgment of, like, Yagami's justice and Jin Kawana's justice and everything that kind of happens with that. Now, granted, we're going to get into that, but I kind of want to lay that groundwork, because at first you'd be hard-pressed to be like, why the fuck am I spending so much time in this goddamn school and not as a student? Like, Persona, at least Persona 5 for me, did it a lot better. It's like, okay, you're a student, you're in school, of course you're going to have to deal with this, and for the most part, most of that stuff works out well enough. I was not trying to actively fight it. Whereas with this, it's just like, oh my god, like, I prioritized getting through most of the school stuff to get the fucking leveling stuff that I needed. Like, sure, you could fucking try and grind out other things for that XP and shit, but good luck to you on that front, my friend. Oh my god, like, it's not really a choice if you have to grind out a shitty minigame or just random battle motherfuckers end over end to, like, get through it. It's a waste of the player's time. Again, going back to game design that I don't like. So I'm like, alright, I have to do this shit with a stupid biker club, a dance club. No karaoke this time either. Game club, robot club, all of these school clubs, and it's like the mystery research club, and you have to be an advisor so that way you could stay on campus to deal with this stuff. It's like, they couldn't have done a better kind of thing. Like, we investigate the Serio High School for bullying, because we see this whole thing going on. There's this Ihara dude who's arrested for sexual battery. There's all this evidence and everything, but then he says, you're going to find this dude's, Mikoshiba's body here in a Jin show. So then you're juggling a Jin show and fucking Kamurocho, and it just doesn't work as well. I liked it better with frickin' Ichiban doing a Jin show and everything like that, with the battle system and everything. This, it's just the same old kind of beat-em-up kind of stuff that isn't really deep enough for me, but also not easy enough that it could just be well, no, it's pretty easy where I could just be like, button mash the motherfuckers and get out of it. But it's still just like a waste of time. I'm like, fuck this shit. It's not complete button mash easy where you could just be like one button and then go. I mean, granted, you could attempt to do this, but you sometimes get fucked over. It's just that kind of thing of like, oh, there's not much for me to do skill-wise to get out of certain kind of things faster. It's like, alright, I gotta chase a motherfucker around or whatnot to get the last kind of one sometimes, because sometimes you get scared of fucking Yagami dealing with this shit. So, God, I know it's all over the place, but like the systems involved, the main story deals with frickin' Ihara pretty much using the sexual battery kind of case against him to have an alibi for his murder of the person who 4 years previously had bullied his son to the point where he committed suicide. And then it's linked to another bullying case 13 years previously where another student was bullied relentlessly. He tried to commit suicide and instead fell into a coma for 13 years. This becomes important later on because this kid, Mitsuru's mother, Reikio Kusumoto. Reikio? God, it gets fucking nutty. Kusumoto-san. She is now in charge of... She's the Vice Minister of Health. I know, we get tied back up with that fucking place again. But the main thing is bullying and how it's not really like dealt with as properly as it should be. Because we see that whole thing, Yagami gets called in for the Yokohama 99 detective agency, which is Tsukumo and Sugiura, and they bring in Yagami and Kaito, and they go to Serio, and they run into these kids who are bullies and assholes, and they're bullying this Kota chick, and they come up with kind of an interesting way to deal with it, where they put speakers in, and they just get, like, the rest of the people to be like, hey, stop doing that. And then Yagami gets pretty much asked by Shirosaki from Genda Law Office to help her do the appeal, because it's like, he knew exactly where this dead body was. I think he did this as a play. And then we just get wrapped up in a whole lot of different kind of shit. Now granted, if it was just a grounded kind of thing that dealt with maybe one bullying case and like really dived into it, sure, fine, that would have been great. It's just weird that it's like, well, let's stop these bullies by beating the fucking shit out of them. It's like, okay. Now granted, it's a beat 'em up game, and I understand that. It's just, it needed a little bit kind of more work. And then Kaito-san's acting so nutty with this Sawa-sensei chick, which they do a little bit with, but she definitely becomes the fucking frigid murder chick later on in the story, and it's just like, okay. And the thing is, she doesn't have to, like, you'd probably watch me and think, oh, you want all characters to live. It's like, no. When you're trying to emotionally manipulate and be like, this, she becomes the driving force for Yagami of, like, this whole kind of stuff, and there's no true build-up for him to have that much other than he didn't want her to die the way she died. It's like, alright, cool. It's just like, they needed more connective tissue there, because he's trying to get to the bottom of her stuff with what was going on with the bullying of Kota, what was going on with Ihara's son Toshiro, what was going on with Mitsuru at Kawa. God, what kind of academy was it? God, some other academy. I just couldn't give it. So, they're getting wrapped up in that. We get that the Yakuza disbanded, and now we got this arcade thing being led by Soma and Akatsu, and they try and bring Kaito-san in. He's like, eat my ass. They tussle a little bit, and then we find out that it's all of this, it devolves into this fucked up kind of conspiracy kind of thing. Now, granted, in the middle there, I had to deal with all the fucking shit at the school just to get the XP and get the story, which was just not good. You just find out one of the kids got fucked over by a cultural festival, and got sucked into the Neo Kahin gang, which is like, oh, that fucking thing that annoyed the fucking shit out of me in the first game, and you just kind of brought this back. And essentially used it to try and, like, fuck over the other kids, but then she got wrapped up in this, and they wouldn't let her leave, and were holding her, fucking mom hostage in the hospital, and then everybody else helps her out, and everybody's okay and friends again. It's like, I don't mind that. I like that. Its execution was just like, I'm annoyed. This was taking entirely too much time and not fucking worth it. Just whatever. And then we get the one bullying thing done with Coda, and then we find out that Mikoshiba was kind of bullying Coda as well about the basketball club kind of thing, and that the one Akane chick liked him, but like he didn't like her, and that's why she's being all fucking pissed off at the Coda chick. Oh god. Let's see. But he doesn't, Yagami doesn't get as much out of Sawa-san until it gets a little bit later, and then she reveals that she knew about Toshiro, and that there was an investigation done by Ihara, and the school was found to not have been negligent, even though Sawa-sensei had evidence of it. She was witness tampered into not providing that, and she felt horrible for it, and that's why Ihara pretty much went fucking to kill Mikoshiba, because he didn't get justice. It's like, his son was tormented to the point where he killed himself. Now granted, does that excuse him to then go murder the bully? No. But accountability needs to be done, otherwise people are like, you know what, I'm just gonna go around killing people, and I'll be justified because some motherfucker will do it to me. And that's where it starts getting nutty as shit. That's where I'm like with Yagami, I'm like, yeah, there's gotta be accountability. You gotta watch out what you're doing with this shit, because he was brought into doing this by Jin Kawana, who was actually this Kitakata dude who was the homeroom teacher, seeing the whole bullying stuff of Mitsuru, and he just told the kids not to overdo it, but he didn't know the extremities, the extremes that these kids were doing it to Mitsuru. He recorded the video, but that same day that he recorded it and got the information, Mitsuru pretty much jumped. Mitsuru jumped and then went into a coma. And then he pretty much went around and became like a bully, murdering motherfucker, handyman. We deal with some kind of shit with the Leo Mung that's just brought in for the sake of it, pretty much. I'm like, goddamn, they're fucking wasted as shit. I mean, they were better utilized in like a dragon with Ichiban, but here they're just like there. Like, they don't do shit with them. It's like, okay, yeah. Yagami needs shit, so he's bros with this Tesso dude who's got fucking Freddy Krueger ass fucking gloves and shit. And then he's like, alright, yeah, you're my bro. Higashi helps out as well at certain points where I'm like, yay, okay. Like, there are better characters and better stories, and it's just like, come on, man. Just fucking, I'm sorry, this goes all over the place, and it's fucking nutty as shit. And it's crazy because RK's trying to find this one dude, and we find out that he is the bully that was pretty much the lead instigator and the one that they pretty much pinned most of this shit on. For Mitsuru, but there was a lot of other people, so Kitakata pretty much blackmailed all of the rest of the students to being his helpers, and kept them pretty much blackmailed, took that one dude who was the main instigator, and delivered him to Kusumoto-san, and she killed him with her own hands. So he pretty much kept that as insurance, and also wanted her to have her peace of mind. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, I understand wanting accountability for these people, but going around murdering people isn't gonna work this out, because then it's like, bam, 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 just gonna fucking kill everybody else. And then, oh my god, the reason RK is trying to find this motherfucker, who's been, like, gone for 5 years, is so that way they can blackmail Kusumoto-san, so that way they can gamble with, like, 160, like, a fucking pension fund. I'm like, god damn it! You just got to escalate that. The public security kind of, I would probably say, would be analogous to the FBI of Japan. They decided to use, Soma is an undercover agent, and that was pretty much used to keep tabs on certain stuff in the underground, and then pretty much took the Tojo clan and Omi Alliance kind of cast offs and made a new thing, so that way they could surveillance them and keep them under their thumb. It's like, god damn it, it's kind of like the other fucking one where it's like, the police will control the Yakuza underworld and we will have we've cornered the market on crime and justice. It's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's an interesting concept, but like the execution of just like, wow, I don't care. I don't care about the characters involved. I don't care about the plan involved. It's just overwrought melodramatic bullshit. It's just like, alright. So they're trying to get the body to make sure that they can have dirt on Kusamoto-san. And she's almost like, fuck you, I'm just going to turn myself in. Her son wakes up, and then she betrays Kuwana. Fuck. Kitakata. Kuwana. That's what he's mostly called throughout this whole fucking thing. And it's just like bouncing around trying to find his fucking ass so many different times. I actually have to fucking go around and do certain kind of shit. God. And of course, Sawa-sensei gets murdered by Soma because they were looking for Kuwana. And it's just like, alright, and that pretty much puts Yagami on the collision course with Kuwana being like, you did all this shit, and she got killed for no reason other than being linked to you. These are the consequences of your actions for doing stupid fucking shit like this. And, of course, he's also trying to help Shirosaki-sensei do her shit with Ihara. And also, she does the fucking dress-up stuff again. Just because we did it one time. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get her going undercover. And it's like, let's do it again! We did it in the first game, let's just do it again. It's like, alright. It just doesn't add anything else for me. It was novel enough in the first one, and I'm like, alright, like, I want this to be a detective game. I want to do detective stuff. I don't do detective stuff. I do shit at high schools. I beat up high schoolers. I don't really find much evidence or whatnot, because that's the thing. The detectiving portion of this isn't that interesting. I'm more watching it than doing it. I want to do the detective stuff. I want to do the lawyer stuff. I want to do all that kind of stuff. And they're like giving me everything but. Like, the tailing is worse in this game for me than the other one, even though most of them aren't as long as the fucking ones that were in the first one. I will give it that. But it's just like, alright, I fly drones, I do stupid shit, I gotta wait for stupid shit. Alrighty then. So, Sawa-sensei's death by Soma, and of course, since he's linked to the public security, they're like, it was Kuwana or whatnot. That was pretty much linked to it, and they were just hiding shit. Like, we got this one Anabe detective pretty much actually linked to the police force. That's being like, yeah, the higher-ups are doing all this shit, and, like, this shit was erased. I don't know what else to do, man. It's like, he's like, do your job! It's like, I get it, but what the fuck, man? And we get this Bondo dude who's just being like, I'm the evil villain, towards the end. It's like, whatever, fuck you. God. And of course, he's threatening Mitsuru and stuff, so Kusamoto betrays Kuwana, and he almost gets, like, caught by Soma on a boat, but he, like, makes a fake explosion thing, and then they have to race to find the body of Kawai, who was the bully that bullied Mitsuru, and it's just like, oh god. And of course we get this giant kind of thing where we infiltrate and beat up all these people with Higashi, Kaito-san, and Sugiura. Kaito-san gets stabbed at one point and is fucking out. He gets stabbed by Soma and then is fucking out for like a good chunk of the game. And it's really weird. He goes kind of perv mode on Sawa-sensei in the beginning, and then they're trying to find Sawa-sensei's killer, and then he kind of evens out. Then he gets stabbed, and then he's just fucking off the board for a good chunk. And it's just like, alright, whatever. They at least evened him out back to kind of what he was in the first game. I was just like, alright. Because I do, for the most part, like the characters. They just make strange, shitty choices, in my opinion, for what they do for the characters. And I'm just like, I don't mind him being, like, love-struck by Sawa-sensei. It's just some of the stuff is just like, really, dude? You're gonna fucking go that route for it? Alright. And then Yagami just I don't mind Sawa-sensei being the main driving force for him trying to get justice, but they kind of beat it to a dead horse, and, like, you didn't know her that well. You know that she felt horrible for Toshiro and Mitsuru and all that stuff, but you, like, knew her for, like, this, like, I don't know how long exactly, but, like, the span of, like, a couple days or whatnot, maybe a couple weeks? I don't know. The timeline's like so condensed for me that I'm just like, okay, I don't know why you're that much into her, but go for it. But not, he wasn't into her like that, but like trying to help her and deal with everything that was going on. So they go, they fight. He pretty much takes down Soma. He fights Kuwana, and Kuwana pretty much was like threatening to blow up Kawai's body. But Kusumoto comes and says, "I'm sorry that I betrayed you. I'm going to turn myself in." She wasn't going to turn herself in because she didn't want Mitsuru to be branded the son of a murderer. And I'm like, tough. He is the son of a murderer now. He's just going to have to deal with that, as well as trying to get his life back on track from surviving his suicide attempt and like trying to regain who he is. And he said, like, they have this call at the end where she's crying because he doesn't understand fully, but that he's going to try and support her the best that he can, and that he'll walk on his own 2 feet. There are nice kind of things that they're trying to get across thematically, and it works more than it doesn't, but there are still problems with it of like, alright. So they do that. They pretty much get Ihara to the trial, and they actually do an appeal because it's like, you couldn't do it. And they find out that Kuwana was in on it, stood in for him. They did a switch to pretty much get him to the alibi and everything, and he had the murder weapon, turned that over. That was kind of before the finale and all that. And it's just like, it's so overly complicated and overwrought that it just falls apart on itself as it gets down to it. And I'm more on Yagami's side of like, yeah, there's people that fall through the cracks, there's people that don't get justice, but just going around murdering people isn't the way. And Kuwana gets away, but he then tips off and leads to the other people finding the other bodies of the other bullies that he's murdered, but he's not turning himself in because he doesn't see that he's really done anything completely wrong, other than it has brought into other people like Sawa Sensei being killed. So Bando gets pretty much shot down by Mafuyu and the other prosecutor dude. Kusumoto gets put into jail as well. And it's just like, alright, whatever, we're good. And we see the bullies who were from the beginning stopping these other bullies from bullying someone else as well. And again, it works, but it's just so... the execution's still off for me. I was just like, I wanted this to be over. And we finally got it over. I'm like, sweet good God. So, if you're a Yakuza fan, you'll love it. It has all the kind of crazy shit that usually happens, and all the kind of nutty kind of mini games that you got with the spiraling and crazy kind of stories. This just isn't for me. I just do not like how the studio does these games, and I played through enough of them that they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Like, it should be honed down to like really good kind of stuff. Now granted, I understand that Judgment and Lost Judgment were the first times that they were doing the kind of detective kind of route, so I understand and give them a kind of a little bit of leeway of trying to figure out how to do gameplay for that. That's difficult. But they worked better on the turn-based kind of stuff because that was just fucking Dragon Quest with the Yakuza shit going on, and it just needs a little bit of work, but like, I enjoyed that better, even though it's like, I have to do this fucking mini game to get money. Like, the fuck? Granted, that happens in JRPGs as well, but sometimes they're just better integrated where it's like, why are you making me grind weirdly? Like, there's a balance that can be had with the grind. And if you're alright with the grind in these games, specifically in like the Yakuza mainline titles and the Lost Judgment, like Judgment, Lost Judgment, that's cool, man. Have your fun. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything, or say there's anything wrong with you, or that mine should only matter. Fuck that noise. It's just, it doesn't work for me, and the stories just go in such weird ways that it doesn't hold my interest. There are other kind of stories that are kind of better, that work with me, and work into it of what kind of goes on. Like, honestly, I think the first Judgment and Like a Dragon worked well enough that it didn't get crazy ass and had a better plotting somehow. Still got a little bit nutty. Still had to fucking do some weird kind of shit. But It had a nice kind of progression where the things that you didn't kind of throw off the pacing. Here, you have to plan out your shit. Otherwise, you get locked out of certain kind of stuff, and you're like, shit. I hope I can do this towards the end. And granted, you could wait towards the end and like do premium adventure, but then I just couldn't do it. I wanted it done as I could. I didn't even do the secret boss because I'm like, I don't like how they do boss battles in this game. Turn-based, I think, would be a little bit different on that front. But I'm just glad I'm kind of done. But the thing is, I do like the characters. There are things that I like about Kiryu, Ichiban, Yagami, Kaito-san, Higashi. It's just, I have to go through things that I don't want to go through. And now I'm pretty much just like, yeah, I finished this. And I do think that Judgment is a better game that was better for Yagami and everything because it just had a better kind of flow and a build-up to the protagonist fighting the antagonist. Whereas this, it was all over the place and had to try and keep you guessing of who you're going to fight and who is your kind of nemesis until the back half. It's like, it's Koana. It's like, alright, how are we dealing with this? I understand you're trying to make this be like, oh, they both have their different versions of justice. I'm like, yeah, but that motherfucker's going around murdering people and all this kind of shit. Now, Yagami, I think, was a little too lenient and be like, yeah, the system's got problems. I'm like, yeah, you gotta fucking fix that shit. Like, specifically with the witness tampering, and should have had that overturned and have that school screwed the fuck over for hiding that shit. Because guess what, motherfucker? If they got away with the bullying once, they'd get away with it more. You know what I mean? They just then figure out what doesn't fit for the school system. I'm like, there are other kind of avenues they should have, like, honed in on if they just kept it reasonable. And instead of going from, like, this was done as an alibi, it's like, okay, we could have just honed in on this. Shit, we're going to another school with other bullying kind of stuff. What the fuck's going on here, man? This man's named Bondo and he wants to gamble with pensions. You're barely connecting it. They wants to use the murder of the bully as blackmail. You are fucking tweaking them pubes, man, just to get to it, man. I don't need the most simple kind of thing where ye are Yagami and ye must fight wizard with giant ball of doom. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there can be twists and turns. There can be Ocean's 11 style change-ups and shit. It's just, when you just start putting things in weird kind of ways, the plots fall apart, and I just start losing interest. I'm just like, alright, I'm pretty much out. I mean, I wanted to see how it ended, and I'm like, alright, I did. Now I'm good. So, I recommend this to Yakuza fans because it's what they made it for you, you know what I mean? It's good on that front. Like, you'll get enjoyment. You got tons of mini games to, like, do all these different kind of things, and the usual kind of beat 'em up system. So definitely have fun with that. People looking into this, I would say just play Judgment, and then just be like, yeah, I'm good. And because they introduce different kind of styles that just really, and most of the upgrades didn't really do much. It's just like, alright, the upgrades for the sake of upgrades almost, like tweaking the gameplay so minimally. It's like, oh, so you just tuned it to do this. Alright. Which, granted, I understand level to level and character design wise, that's the whole point of upgrade systems. You try and figure out your optimal kind of thing and then figure out what would be interesting kind of ways for gamers to kind of upgrade to that kind of route. That's the job. Here, it just doesn't feel like, oh yeah, I have to get 40,000 XP for this kind of thing. And you're like, alright, kind of a little bit more health. Alright, let's see how this kind of goes. But yes, fans will like it. If you played Judgment 1, I would say just stick with that. If you really want to know the continuing adventures, go for it. Like, if you're really into the characters, sure. If you're really into the plot of the first game, that's the only thing that I would warn against, is that it just falls apart and it just doesn't really tackle the issues in a way. It's just a kind of sloppier way than I think they should go for it. They do treat it seriously enough, but it goes weird. Not like Octopus Hentai weird, but it's just like when you leave at the end and it's like the main antagonist wants to gamble with pensions, you're just gonna be like, okay. I know, I bring up such weird stuff, but yeah. I still am glad that I went through this series because it's like the other kind of main series that I've gone through. I've seen how a studio learns and grows and sometimes doesn't, where they try new things and they don't work, and sometimes they try different things. And I mean, I'm glad that it didn't stay Yakuza from Yakuza 3 where you're just blocking all the time or having to deal with blocking motherfuckers and all that shit. They at least did that. They made risky moves of going with a turn-based one that I'm like, hey, it's a JRPG where there's old motherfuckers fighting in the real world just doing real world shit. And it's like, gave it a chance. I'm like, I like it for that. So yes, like this, like seeing the Gears franchise, Dead Rising, Halo, all that kind of stuff. I do like that I did that for this. Would I say that I enjoyed my time with this series? Not particularly, though there was some enjoyment. Like, overall, I'd be like, nah, but with a little caveats of like, okay, I did enjoy those kind of bits, but not overall. Like, there's the negatives and the weirdness, and trust me, I can deal with certain weirdness, you know what I mean? But, like, the weirdness of game design more than anything. And seeing the game design, that's the big kind of thing, and playing through it and learning it. That. So, I am glad I played these to understand what I like about game design and what I don't like, and to try and articulate that better, and that way I can go further better in other game series as well. So that is my perspective on Lost Judgment. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.